You take your blood pressure medication faithfully. You take it every single day, exactly as your doctor instructed. And yet, every morning, when you sit down and wrap that cuff around your arm, the number is higher than it should be. You have probably blamed yourself. You have probably wondered if the medication is even working, or whether something has quietly gone wrong inside you. But what if I told you that the spike you see every morning is not a failure of your medication, and it is not a failure of your body? What if it is something almost no one has ever explained to you correctly? I am Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, and after more than 25 years working with older adults in internal medicine, I have watched this exact pattern confuse intelligent, careful people who are doing everything right. They monitor their numbers, they take their pills, they watch their salt, and still, that morning reading climbs again and again until they begin to dread the very act of measuring. Today I am going to explain why this happens, what is actually occurring inside your body in those early hours, and what you can quietly begin doing about it. Stay with me, because what I am about to describe is a mechanism that most people, and even some physicians, never take the time to explain in plain language. Once you understand it, the fear that has been waiting for you each morning will begin to loosen its grip. Let me begin by challenging something you have probably believed for years. Most people assume that blood pressure is a flat, steady number. They imagine it sits at one level all day, like water in a still pond, and that a single pill in the morning holds it there, unchanging until the next dose. But this is not how the body works at all. Your blood pressure is not a flat line. It is a living rhythm. It rises and falls across every 24 hours in a pattern, as predictable as the tide moving in and out along a shoreline. It dips low in the depths of your sleep, and it climbs to its sharpest peak in the early morning hours, often before you are even fully awake. This is the part that rarely gets explained. The reason your blood pressure climbs in the morning is not random, and it is usually not your fault. It is built into your biology. It has been happening inside every human being for as long as we have existed. Doctors call it the morning surge, and once you truly understand it, your morning numbers will stop frightening you and start informing you instead. Let me walk you through what is actually happening, step by step, because each piece matters. The first thing you must understand is the role of your body's internal clock. Deep inside your brain, you have a master timekeeper that governs nearly every system in your body. It controls when you feel sleepy, when you feel alert, when your temperature rises and falls. And in the hours before dawn, usually somewhere between 3 and 6 in the morning, this clock begins preparing your body to wake. It does not wait for your alarm. It does not wait for sunlight. It begins releasing a wave of hormones, chief among them a stress hormone called cortisol. Now, I want to be careful here because the word stress hormone frightens people. Cortisol is not your enemy. It is the chemical that gives you the energy to rise from your bed and begin your day. Without it, you would feel exhausted and unable to move when morning came. But cortisol does something else as well. It tightens your blood vessels and it signals your heart to beat a little harder and a little faster, preparing your whole system for the demands of being awake. Think of it like a house in winter. Before you wake, the furnace quietly switches on in the early morning so that the rooms are already warm by the time your feet touch the cold floor. Your body does exactly the same thing. It turns up the internal engine before you ever open your eyes so that you are ready to function. The trouble is that this rising engine also raises the pressure inside your arteries. In a young person with soft, flexible blood vessels, this surge is gentle and absorbed easily. The vessels stretch and give, the way a fresh garden hose flexes when the water rushes through it. But after the age of 60, your arteries are stiffer. This is a natural part of aging, and it happens to nearly everyone. The vessels no longer stretch and give the way they once did. So the very same hormonal surge that a younger body absorbs without difficulty produces a much sharper spike in pressure inside an older body. The engine turns up, but the pipes can no longer flex to accommodate it. That is the first mechanism, and it is the foundation of everything else. Now let me show you the second factor, and this one surprises almost everyone I explain it to. While you sleep, you are not drinking any water. For 7 or 8 hours, sometimes longer, no fluid at all enters your body. But your body does not stop losing water during that time. You lose it steadily through your breath, with every exhale, and through your skin, even when you do not feel yourself sweating. By the time morning arrives, your blood is slightly more concentrated and slightly thicker than it was when you laid your head down the night before. Thicker blood moves with more resistance. Picture the difference between water flowing through a pipe and honey moving through that same pipe. The thicker the fluid, the harder the pump must work to move it. And when blood that has thickened overnight moves through arteries that have stiffened with age, during a hormonal surge that is already raising the pressure, all three of these forces combine. You wake already at a disadvantage before you have done a single thing, before you have even stood up. I want you to pay close attention to this next part, because here is where so many people unknowingly make their situation worse. What is the first thing you do when you wake? For most people, the answer is coffee. You shuffle to the kitchen, still half asleep, and you drink a strong cup of coffee on an empty stomach, often before you have taken in any water at all. Now, I am not here to tell you that coffee is poison. I drink it myself. But caffeine is a stimulant, and one of the things it does is constrict your blood vessels and add another push to a pressure that is already climbing on its own. You have, without realizing it, poured fuel onto a fire that was already burning quietly. And then, perhaps an hour later, you wrap the cuff around your arm, you see a number that alarms you, and you feel disheartened, never connecting it to the cup in your hand. There is a third factor, and it is one I see constantly in my older patients, perhaps more than any other. Many people take their blood pressure medication in the morning with their breakfast. It feels logical and tidy to take it at the start of the day, but here is the problem that almost no one explains. Most of these medications are strongest in the hours right after you take them, and they slowly weaken across the following day as your body processes and clears them. If you take pill at 8 in the morning, then by the time the next morning's surge arrives at 4 or 5 o'clock, that medication has been working for nearly 20 hours. It is at its very weakest exactly when your body needs it most. The shield has thinned right at the moment the sword falls. The protection has faded right when the storm arrives. So now you can see the full picture. The hormonal surge, the thickened blood, the stiffened arteries, the early coffee, and the weakened medication, all of them arriving at the same hour, all of them pushing in the same direction. It is not one thing going wrong. It is several ordinary things stacking quietly on top of one another at the worst possible time of day. Let me tell you about a patient, because his story makes all of this real, and his story is the story of so many people I have met. I remember a man named Walter, 68 years old. He was a retired school teacher, precise and disciplined, the kind of man who kept a small notebook in which he recorded his blood pressure twice a day, every day, for years. He came to me deeply frustrated, and beneath that frustration, frightened. His daytime readings were excellent. His evening readings were fine. But every single morning, his pressure was high, sometimes alarmingly so. He had become convinced that something was seriously wrong with his heart, that some hidden disease was hiding inside him and revealing itself only at dawn. And here's the cruel part. He had begun to feel anxious every morning before he even reached for the cuff. He would lie awake worrying about the number he was about to see. And that anxiety, of course, raised his pressure even higher, so that his fear was quietly creating the very reading that frightened him. He was caught in a circle that fed itself. When I sat down and studied his notebook, the pattern was unmistakable. His mornings followed a precise routine, the same one every day. He woke at 5 o'clock. He drank 2 strong cups of black coffee immediately, before anything else. He took his medication with his breakfast at 7:30, and then he measured his pressure at 8. Everything he was doing, while perfectly sensible on the surface, was stacking one pressure-raising factor on top of another at the single worst hour of the day. He was, without knowing it, building a small mountain every morning and then measuring its height with despair. We made small, careful changes, and I want to be very clear about something. We made these changes together with his regular physician, never on our own and never in secret. This matters, and I will return to it. He began drinking a full glass of water the moment he woke, before anything else passed his lips. This gently began to thin the blood that had thickened overnight. He waited 30 minutes before his first coffee, giving his body time to settle into being awake, and he reduced his coffee from 2 cups to 1. After a careful conversation with his doctor, the timing of his medication was adjusted so that his protection was strongest during the vulnerable early morning hours rather than weakest. And perhaps most importantly, he stopped measuring his pressure the very instant he woke, when the surge is naturally at its highest peak. Instead, he measured after he had been awake, calm, and settled for a while. Within a few weeks, Walter's morning numbers came down meaningfully. But the change I valued most was not written anywhere in his notebook. It was in his face. The fear was gone. He understood, finally, what was happening inside his own body, and that understanding gave him back something the numbers had taken from him. It gave him back his sense of control over his own mornings. If any of this sounds familiar to you, if you have felt that same quiet morning frustration, that same dread before the measurement, I would like you to write the word morning in the comments below. It helps me understand how many of you are living with this exact pattern, and it reminds someone else reading those comments that they are not strange and they are not alone. Now let me give you practical guidance, and I want to keep this simple because small changes made consistently matter far more than dramatic changes made once and then abandoned. Start with water. Keep a glass of water beside your bed at night and drink it the moment you wake, before your feet even touch the floor. This is the easiest change you can make, and it gently addresses the thickened blood that has been quietly raising your pressure all night. Next, give yourself time before your coffee. You do not have to give up coffee. I would never ask you to surrender something that brings you comfort. Simply wait until you have been awake for at least 30 minutes and allow your body to settle into the morning before you add caffeine on top of a pressure that is already rising. Then rise slowly. This is something people overlook entirely. Do not leap out of bed the moment you wake. Sit on the edge of the mattress for a moment. Take a few slow, deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. This signals your nervous system to ease gently into the day rather than to jolt into it, and it genuinely softens the sharpness of the surge. And finally, speak with your own doctor about the timing of your medication. I am not telling you to change anything on your own. I want to say that again clearly because it is the most important sentence in this entire video. Do not adjust your dose or your schedule by yourself. What I am telling you is to have the conversation. Bring your notebook, bring your pattern, and ask your physician whether a different timing might offer you better protection in those vulnerable early hours. For many people, that single conversation changes everything. There is one more thing I want you to carry with you, and it matters more than any single number you will ever see on that screen. I want you to understand that a high morning reading taken once is not a verdict. It is a single photograph of one moment in a long moving river. What matters is the pattern across many days and weeks, not the fright of one measurement on one morning. So many of my patients over the years have suffered needless fear, lost sleep, and real anxiety because they treated a single number as a sentence handed down upon them. Please do not do that to yourself. One reading tells you very little. The trend tells you everything. The body, even after 60, even after 70, even beyond, has a remarkable ability to respond when you give it the right conditions. Your arteries may be stiffer than they once were, and that is simply the honest truth of growing older. But they are not beyond your influence. The water you drink, the rhythm of your morning, the timing of your care, the calm and slowness you bring to the first moments of your day, all of these gently shape the very mechanism I have described to you. You are not powerless standing in front of that morning number. You understand it now in a way you did not before, and understanding is where real control always begins. If this explanation helped you see your mornings differently, please subscribe to this channel and leave a like so that more people who carry this same quiet worry can find their way to these answers. I will continue sharing what I have learned across my many years with patience, the patterns I have seen again and again, so that you can make wiser, calmer decisions about your health earlier rather than later. And tell me below, what time of day do you usually measure your blood pressure? Your answer may help someone else understand their own numbers a little better. I read every comment, and I will see you in the next one.